Good evening to you once again, traveller. I almost thought you wouldn't show. Tell me, traveller, do you believe there are other planes of existence beside the one that we reside in? You do? How marvellous! And are you also of the opinion that, in these other planes, there is sentient life? Again, you are a believer. In that case, I think I have a tale you will rather enjoy. Come, my friend, sit and listen to the tale I call The Crooked Engine.
Once there was a crooked engine. It ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, scaring engines with its crooked smile. So if a signal red should force you wait a while, be wary of the crooked engine, lurking behind the crooked...
Edward, normally I enjoy your traditional spooky tales, but you tell that childish limerick every year.
He's right, Edward. I've heard it so many times now, I know how it goes before you even say it.
I quite concur, Edward. Do us all a favour and change the record. Why not give us a spooky tale about a supernatural fogman who appears to a lone traveller every foggy night in order to tell them a cautionary tale or something?
Look, you guys might not like it, but we do. So how about you let Edward continue?
Well, naturally, little Thomas, you would enjoy it because you are nothing but a silly little tank engine who enjoys silly little stories. Need I remind you of your encounter with the ghost engine?
It was one time, Gordon, and I was a lot younger back then. Besides, I couldn't really see all that well. What with it being dark, and how was I supposed to know it was just Percy covered in limestone dust? God!
Now, it's alright, Thomas. If they don't want to hear it, then it's no skin off my nose. Now, I don't know about you, but I think we all ought to turn in. Besides, they've really got themselves to blame for what's coming next.
Quite right. Some of us bigger engines have very important work to do tomorrow, and we cannot be kept awake.
The next evening, Gordon was on his way home from pulling his last express of the day. He was feeling very tired and longed to be back in his warm shed. As he approached Elsbridge, he became aware of an engine sitting on the line ahead. He braked to a halt and glared through the thick fog.
What in Gresley's name do you think you're playing at? Sitting on the main line in these conditions? I could have run right into you, you silly little...
Gordon trailed off as he caught a glimpse of the engine's face. It looked similar in structure to Thomas's face, except its cheeks were shallow and its skin wrinkled. But the worst thing of all was the large crooked grin stretched across its face. Gordon also didn't like the look the tank engine was giving him. It looked malicious and taunting, like a hungry lion. Eventually, the engine spoke in a deep, chilling voice that made Gordon's frame rattle.
Why are you always in such a hurry, Gordon? Could it be because perhaps you are afraid?
Me? Afraid? Whatever are you talking about? Who even are you?
Oh, you know who I am, Gordon. I'm the voice inside your head. The one that constantly reminds you of just how inferior you are to your brother Flying Scotsman. That's why you're also so pompous and impatient, isn't it, Gordon? You feel inferior to Scotsman, and who could blame you? After all, he is world famous.
I'm world famous too. I've been to London twice.
So some old vicar puts you in a storybook for snotty-nosed children. Big deal. Scotsman's has been in hundreds of books, toured the world, and can travel 25 miles faster than you can.
Enough of this. I've had a long day and wish to retire to my nice warm shed. Now, be a little good tank engine and move out of my way.
You can deny it all you like, Gordon, but you know I'm telling the truth.
If you insist upon obstructing my line, I shall forcibly shunt you out of the way. This is your only warning.
Tank engine just chuckled, its eyes still fixed upon Gordon's, who snorted like an enraged bull.
Very well. Don't say I didn't warn you. Have at your what's on, Sodor!
As Gordon drew back and charged, the engine seemingly vanished, as if it had never been there. Gordon, shaken by the experience, said nothing and slowly slunk back to the sheds. The next morning, he told the others about it.
Just some silly tank engine playing tricks on you, Gordon. Nothing more, nothing less.
But that doesn't explain how he suddenly vanished.
Well, this certainly does, Gordon. You were tired after a long day of running around and pulling the express, and imagine the whole thing.
Somehow, James, I don't think I did.
Gordon, you're being preposterous. I tell you what, if I find this tank engine actually does exist, I shall severely reprimand them for playing pranks on you when they should be focusing on their work. How's that?
I wish you every bit of success.
Henry questioned every tank engine that he met that day, but not a single one had any idea who or what he was talking about. Henry was still mulling it over as he sat idling in his forest siding.
It just doesn't make sense. Gordon is certain he didn't imagine it, yet not a single one of the tank engines, even remotely matching the description he gave, were out last night. Maybe I'll think of something if I sleep on it.
Henry was beginning to pull out of the siding when he heard something, an engine puffing. As he stared through the darkness, he saw the shape of an engine approaching through the trees.
What? What's another engine doing in the forest this late? I say, who's there? Identify yourself.
What's this, Henry? Hiding amongst the trees instead of inside a tunnel? I wouldn't let Sir Topham Hatt find you here. He might build a couple of fences, rip up your rails, and leave you for the squirrels to play in.
Oh, so it's you, is it? Listen, I heard about your encounter with Gordon, and I'm here to put a stop to this tomfoolery of yours.
And how do you propose to do that, Henry? You heard what Gordon said. He charged me at full speed, yet I moved in the blink of an eye.
Gordon was tired and frustrated. I am not. Now, prepare to get what's what?
Before Henry knew what was happening, the tank engine suddenly appeared in front of him, as if by magic. Suddenly, Henry began to feel himself moving, as the tank engine began to push him.
I say, stop that at once. You hear me? Stop it! I say! Oh, this is unbelievable. Driver, brakes, quickly!
Henry's driver made for the brakes, but realized to his utter confusion the brakes were hard on, yet Henry's wheels still turned. Henry groaned in immense pain as he listened to the sound of his wheels grating against his brake blocks as they tried to hold fast. There was a sudden snap, and Henry shot backwards as his brakes gave out.
Heed and spread this warning, Henry. 2 of 3 that did the deed that sees me freed have been punished for their sins. Only 1 remains. Go, warn James. Tell him I'll be seeing him soon.
And with a blast of its whistle, the sinister tank engine began to reverse around the corner it had come from, its bulging red eyes never once leaving Henry's until it was just out of sight. Once Henry regained his composure, he raced back to the sheds and told James all about the grinning tank engine's warning, but James was not swayed.
You're pathetic, Henry, you know that? This morning you were all pomp and puff, bragging about the shunting you'd give this joker, and now you come scurrying in, making an almighty racket.
But, James,
Henry, it's late, and I have an early goods first thing, so I really need my...
You'd do well to stop talking, James, and heed the warnings you've been given if you want to get any sleep at all in the near future.
The 3 large tender engines looked back and saw Edward sitting at the back of the shed, a strange mixture of sympathy and detachment etched on his face. There was a hiss, and Edward slowly rolled forwards into the light emanating out of the yard lights.
There's a reason I can tell that childish Limerick, as you call it, every year, and that is because it is no mere Limerick, but an ancient Sudrian incantation designed to prevent Hanged-God, or the Crooked Engine, as he's more commonly known, from forming a dimensional bridge between his dimension, Toto Dimensione, which translates to the Crooked Dimension, and ours when the barrier between the dimensions is at its weakest.
Is there a way of stopping him, Edward?
We must find Hanged-God and fully recite the incantation before the first stroke of midnight. If we are even a second late, the bridge will be complete and the two dimensions will begin to merge. We will be able to do nothing but watch as our dimension warps and crumbles as Total Dimensione forcibly replaces ours. There will be discord, gentlemen, human sacrifices, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria like you've never seen!
Wait, what do you mean, us? You're the wise old engine who's always full of knowledge about the supernatural and the otherworldly. Why can't you just do it?
Because you three were the ones who interrupted the incantation and allowed Hanged-God to cross the dimensional void in the first place. Meaning just I alone won't be enough to do it, Gordon!
But he could be anywhere on the island, Edward. We've only an hour to midnight. How can we possibly find him in just 60 minutes?
2 or 3 that did the deed that sees me free have been punished for their sins, and only 1 remains, as I believe that is what he had no doubt told you. It is quite evidently clear, gentlemen, that we must not go to Hanged-God, but bring him to us.
Oh, and let me guess. Because he hasn't gone boogity-boogity-boo at me, I'm going to be as attractive to him as a triple large breakfast buddy is to the fat controller. Right?
I wouldn't have put it quite so coarsely plain as that, but essentially, yes.
Terrific.
And so Edward put his plan into action. James was to sit outside the sheds on the turntable, whilst Henry, Gordon and Edward hung back in the sheds, waiting for Hanged-God to appear, whereupon all 4 engines would recite the incantation.
Remember, James, there is no need to fear. We will be right behind you.
Oh yeah, about 300 flaming yards behind me at that.
Everyone, I think I hear someone coming.
Indeed, Gordon was right, for they could hear the slow puffing of an engine getting closer and closer. As James stared through the mist, he could see a solitary light, and then he saw something that made his already chilled boiler run even colder. Hanged-God's eyes bore into James's, giving him the same cold and ravenous look that he'd given Gordon and Henry, and his crooked smile was even wider than James could have imagined.
Oh, heck.
Well, this is quite the surprise. I come looking for you, James, and here I find you, right in the middle of the yard. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you were waiting for me.
Well, you pretty much handed Henry a written invitation for him to give to me, so it stands to reason I'd be waiting for you.
But out in the middle of the turntable, completely exposed to me? No, this doesn't sound like you at all, James, does it, Edward?
Edward? What are you talking about Edward for? He's not here, as you can plainly see.
Nice try, my dear old Iron, but I know you too well. You realise you've only 1 shot at stopping me from bridging the gap, and you're desperate not to fail, so you used your little red prima donna
Here, give over.
as bait for a trap. I'm right, aren't I, Eddie?
Yes, you're right, Hanged-God. I did indeed use James as bait to lure you into my trap, and you fell for it hook, line and sinker.
You'll never do it, Edward. These 3 aren't as strong-willed as you. They're weak, imperfect, gullible, vain, and so many other things.
They are also Northwesterns, which means they're really reliable and really useful. Everyone, now! Once there was a crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, staring into the crooked mile. Ignore a signal red just continuing a while. Beware of the crooked engine, stuck behind
Just
the crooked
stop,
mile.
you're wasting your
Once there was a
time.
crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, staring into the crooked mile. Ignore a signal red just continuing a while. Beware of the crooked engine, stuck behind the crooked mile. mile. Once there was a crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, carrying engines with crooked miles. So if a signal wrench should warn you in the wild, beware of the crooked engine, stuck behind the crooked mile. Once there was a crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, carrying engines with crooked miles. So if a signal wrench should warn you in the wild, beware of the crooked engine, stuck behind the crooked mile. Once there was a crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, carrying engines with crooked miles. So if a signal wrench should warn you in the wild, beware of the crooked engine, stuck behind the crooked mile. Once there was a crooked engine, it ran a crooked mile. It ran the main line, carrying engines with crooked miles. So if a You have failed, Hankin Gord. The incantation is complete, and the bridge is closing for another year. I'd go now if you don't want to be trapped in the void, although personally, I couldn't care less if you were.
You win again, Oldine, but you can't last forever. Sooner or later, you'll end up on the scrap heap, and that incantation will fade into memory, to be known as nothing more than some silly old limerick designed by can't-be-arsed parents in the hopes their little crotch goblins will be scared into behaving themselves.
As long as I'm sure there is someone to recite the incantation, your world and ours will never merge.
So you say.
Since that night, a remarkable change came over Henry, Gordon and James. They would listen with vested interest to Edward's stories and warned other engines.
If on Halloween night, Edward should ever decide to recite to you the limerick of the crooked engine,
say nothing. Don't utter a sound. Do not even dare breathe until the limerick is done.
You will not like the consequences should you dare to interrupt.
You would think many would laugh at them for being childish to believe in such a tale, but the grave looks and steely edge in their voices would convince other engines to take heed of their warnings. So far, no engine, certainly not Gordon, Henry or James, has claimed to see a tank engine with burning red eyes the size of dinner plates and a wide, crooked grin with teeth like stalactites slowly appearing from the mist. But then again, we've only their word for that. Well, traveller, there's quite a lot to unravel in that little tale, isn't there? What's that you say, traveller? Do I think Hang-It Gord is out there somewhere? Well, I cannot say for sure, but I do think you should heed the limerick's advice, and the advice of any other limerick similar of tone, for they may very well save your life. Ah, the clock doth toll the hour, and summons me back to my work. Fare thee well on your lonesome road, good traveller, and forget not the advice of the limerick. If a signal red should force you wait a while, be wary for the crooked engine, lurking behind the crooked stile.